have liked plenty of garbage things in my life. Hey nerds, it's me recording a video from my car. I actually had to go into my office today for reasons that are beyond my understanding. No idea what I was doing there, but it's fine. So I am driving home and I wanted to record a video. I've actually wanted to record it for a couple of days now. Actually longer than that. I've wanted to record it for a couple of weeks. And I haven't really known what I wanted to say. So I'm saying it now and we'll figure it out. A couple of weeks ago, sort of a to-do was made online about Gabby Hanna's second volume of poetry, and a review that the YouTuber Rachel Oates made about that book. I don't really want to get into that whole situation. I have a lot of thoughts about it, so if you want to hear those thoughts, I'd be happy to share them. I've talked about it quite a bit on Twitter, so you can find it on my Twitter if you want. But I want to talk about something that came up a lot, that I was seeing in a lot of comments and tweets in surrounding the whole Gabby Hanna poetry situation. And that was, a lot of people were saying that you cannot call Gabby Hanna's poetry, or by extension, any form of art, bad, because art is subjective, and therefore, because some people like something, such as Gabby Hanna's poetry, it can't just be bad. You can't just say it is objectively bad. This thing seems like it's shaking quite a lot. And so I wanted to talk about that today as we drive home. I want to talk about objectivity versus subjectivity when it comes to talking about art. So I obviously review books on this channel, right? I don't consider myself a professional by any means, mostly because I'm not getting paid to do this, but also because I know, like, I have no reason to be a professional. Like, you have no reason to, like, fucking listen to anything I say about anything. I'm just, like, some Yahoo on the internet, and you can leave at any time, right? I'm not a professional book reviewer. I'm not a professional anything except for what my job is, right? But when I talk about books and other things about which I have opinions, I like to think that I give my objective opinion, which is I either liked this thing or didn't like this thing, which is subjective, but I have concrete reasons that are demonstrable in the text, things that I can point out in this book, being like, this happened, and then this choice was made, and this was like this. I can lay out the reasons why I liked or did not like that book. And those reasons are objective, right? How I felt about those reasons is the subjective part. And so I think that saying you can't say that this book of poetry, for example, is good or bad is very simplistic. Are you trying to, what are you trying to do, first of all? All right, well, we're just gonna zippity-doo-dah around you, aren't we? What were they talking about? I don't know. Let's move on to the next part of the subject. Poetry. And I'm not sort of picking on Gabby Hanna's poetry for any particular reason. This is just the thing that sort of like sparked this line of thinking in me, but it applies to anything. But I'm just gonna be talking about poetry here because that's what came up. Poetry, like any other medium of art, has rules and techniques and traditions and customs that go into making up this art form, right? There are things that poets always do or often do or tend to do. This doesn't apply to every single poem or every single poet or every single subgenre of poetry, but you can speak generally about the things that go into making a poem or the things that a poet does. And a good poet can take those rules and customs and techniques and what have you and break them or twist them or subvert them. And when a good poet does those things, they usually result in good poetry, and that can be fantastic. But it takes a good poet. It takes someone who knows what the fuck they're doing, right? Some rando sitting down and just scribbling out thoughts and then putting them in the vague shape of a poem isn't doing that subversion, isn't doing that breaking of the mold, right? They're just being inept at the thing they're doing. So a person who knows what they're talking about, a reviewer who knows the rules and customs and traditions of poetry and can speak about them with authority, can look at a poem and say, this is objectively bad, because they can point out the things that make it objectively bad, the reasons that it fails at the things it is attempting to do. And sure, I would hope that someone who is attempting to speak authoritatively about a text or a piece of art is going to use better words than good or bad. Those words aren't very useful or descriptive, but that doesn't change the fact that you absolutely can say that a piece of work is good or bad objectively. That has nothing to do with whether or not you as an individual like a piece of art. You can like whatever the fuck you want. Art is subjective when it comes to our personal interaction with that. I just don't want to hit you. When it comes to our personal interaction with that text, I have liked plenty of garbage things in my life. Twilight is a famously terrible book series. Like, those books are not well written. Those are not good books. And I love them. They're so much fucking fun. Like, who cares that they're bad? They're fun. Like, that's what they're there to be. And so I am subjectively loving this objectively terrible piece of art, right? I have not seen the television show Emily in Paris that's on Netflix, but from literally every single okay, what are we doing? But from literally every single person I know, either like personally or online, who has watched this show, it apparently fails at being a good television show on every single level, right? The acting, the writing, the plot, the fashion, everything. I don't know anybody who thinks that this show succeeds at being a television show. And yet, everybody loves it. It's incredibly popular. All I could hear from everybody was how they couldn't stop watching it even though it was a fucking train wreck. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's an objectively bad show that people love. By that same token, you can hate something that is objectively good, right? The movie Uncut Gems. I can understand that it is an objectively good movie that does movie things well. I hate it. I hate that fucking movie. Oh my god, it was so fucking boring. Everyone kept talking about like, oh my god, I was so tense the entire time. I was on the edge of my seat. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was literally falling asleep in the theater. I hated Uncut Gems so much, I wanted to leave. Like, it's the movie I've hated the most in the past like several years. I could not stand that movie. But I can understand that it is objectively good. I just hated it. Those two things aren't connected. And so that's just kind of what I wanted to talk about. That when someone is critiquing a piece of art, even when they're using words that sound to us like opinion words, like good or bad or interesting, they can be used objectively. And just because they are describing a piece of art that you feel some type of way about, doesn't mean that those objective truths stop being objective. Basically, at the end of the day, if an expert in an area of art says that something is objectively one way and you feel differently, that objectiveness doesn't get canceled out. Oh my god, this thing is shaking so much. That objective thing doesn't get canceled out by your feelings. Like, enjoy shitty things and hate good things. Like, no one can stop you. But don't just come out and say, you can't say that this is bad because I enjoy it. Because that's frankly really simplistic, and it just like centers your personal feelings over someone else's expertise. And that's not great. I think that really contributes to sort of the anti-intellectual bend that we're heading on as a society, as a culture. Again, hate things, love things, I don't care. But let people with educated opinions share those opinions. And if you disagree, walk away. So that's all I have to say. That is all I have for you today. Just a little thing I've been thinking about. I hope you're having a great week. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Okay, bye.